Hello, I'm Riley, and this is Shiloh, and this is the Doan Leadership Educator Series interview series. Shiloh, you want to take a second, introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Shiloh Rosseter, and I'm a KPRI educator, and I'm also the president of PRISM, which stands for People for the Rights of Individuals of Sexual Minorities.
Awesome. Speaking of that, can you tell me a little bit of what PRISM does here on campus?
So the point of PRISM, I started it my freshman year, and we got it. It really started to get going when I was a sophomore. The point of it was to have a community for those that identify as LGBTQ plus to have a space that they felt safe and then knew that they um, just had a place where they could come talk about like their week and to really build that community aspect. That's the whole reason I started it. And to also do fun activities and things that we thought on our own. I'm always open to like what other people's ideas are, regardless of what like class they are, freshman, sophomore, junior, etc. It doesn't matter. We always cater to like what the current student population is for our members, and then we base events off what our ideas are.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Digging a little bit more into PRISM, what has been your favorite part of starting that program?
My favorite part was just seeing people come together, and then as a freshman, it was really difficult because you're trying to like where do I go for that, and like who do I talk to about this, but it all came together. But my favorite part is just knowing that it's a space where people genuinely care for each other, and that you can come together and know that like these people will listen to me, and I can like it's pre-COVID times going to eat lunch together,
Yeah.
or like let's go study together, things like that. It's just a place to come together to talk to your friends and support each other and talk about the issues that we have um, within our community.
Yes. Speaking into that a little bit, you talked about starting that your freshman year. That took a lot of leadership skills. What would you consider leadership?
What I consider leadership to be, it's well, it's being able to um, delegate when you need to, but and
Yeah.
knowing like what you're capable of. It's admitting when you're wrong and owning up to that, and knowing um, that you'll do better in the future. It's you don't like we're all human, and like while it's important to be able to lead a group of people, it's also important to say, hey, like I'm human too, and
Mhm.
human error is a part of everything that we do. And then moving on from it and doing better at other events and whatever else that people do in leadership roles.
Yeah. Uh, kind of speaking to that answer yet again, leaning into leadership, what are some key leadership advice you would give to someone who's looking to get into something like PRISM or another leadership role here on campus?
Ask questions.
That's a question.
Ask questions. Ask questions about what the role is. Make sure you know that you'll have time for it. Make sure that you have people to reach out to. Like for example, uh, in the past we have teamed up with other organizations on campus, like Chi Delta being one of them for some events, or Write Out Loud events in the past, and upcoming we have Transvisibility Week with DEI. We're collaborating with them to make the last week of March a great deal to highlight trans individuals and their importance, and that to say that we support you and that we're here for you. Um, it's it's connecting with other people, and um, in order to attain the goals that you've set for yourself, for your group, and for the members, and in general. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really love your idea of asking questions. That's definitely something that I learned through my leadership series. My leadership journey is getting into those roles, is being able to ask questions. Um, Moving into our next question, if it's okay with you, could we discuss a little bit about your journey about changing your pronouns and how that played into your leadership role?
yeah, like okay, so I've actually like I've I chose my name Shiloh when I was 16. But as a 16-year-old, I didn't know a lot about the community, and I know that my parents didn't know anything about it. So I was I moved away from that because I didn't want to, like, I don't know, look it up on my computer and then have my parents see it and like question it. Not that they wouldn't accept that, but I just didn't want to hinder myself from exploring another part of me at a time where I just didn't think that I could. Um, but I've always felt, I haven't really ever felt feminine. I've always been more on the masculine side of things. But now I just feel like being a person that identifies as they, them, it lets me be free to explore both sides in a way that is neutral. And it's just like, if it's just like I happen to be dressing feminine today, or I happen to be dressing masculine, or I'm just wearing or I'm just wearing a hoodie because I'm tired and it's Friday. So, you know, um, I I don't know. I just think it's just how I've always kind of felt.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't really recognize it until I had the language for it.
Mhm.
I think language is so essential, and seeing yourself represented is also an essential piece, because if you don't see that, then you don't know it's there, and you can't exist in that identification. So
Yeah, that was amazing. It was definitely something that I look forward to as far as being able to ask you of some a point of inspiration a bit. I know that takes a lot of bravery to do that, and especially in not so rural Nebraska, but in small town Nebraska, where maybe those ideas are not so welcome for whatever reason. On the topic, what advice would you give to someone who is looking to do something, as changing their pronouns, or do something in the realm of being a part of PRISM in that group and such?
specifically as far as being a part of PRISM, or
Being PRISM, being a part of PRISM, and then maybe coming out or changing their pronouns, or what do you think is pieces of advice that people that are stepping into trying that part of their life should do or try?
as far as PRISM, like, we accept you no matter what. Like, if you're like, if today you come in, you say, hey, I identify as this, and next week you come in and say I identify as this, we're like, okay, cool, and we respect that, because we realize that gender and sexuality, like, it's on a spectrum. It's fluid. It can change, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we make that very clear in the beginning if you decide to be a member of PRISM. But in general, I'd say if you feel like you want to change your name or your pronouns, first of all, make sure that you're in a safe space to do that. Because I mean, no one wants to be like kicked out of their house because like you decide like this is who I am. But it's just make sure that you're in a safe place. You have someone to talk to, whether it's a friend or um, a mentor, or just someone you trust, someone that you know will be there for you. It's knowing that, and also not feeling bad about what other people's reactions are, because you will figure out who you are, and what someone else says more about them than what it says about you. Um, yeah.
Yeah, those, I think that really speaks to what you all are doing at PRISM, and then specifically your role here. I mean, creating PRISM and leading it is amazing. Where would you consider the start of your leadership journey?
Oh boy. Well, I think as far as Doan, PRISM would be one of them. Um, in high school, let's see, I did theater and like different things like that, and like I would take up different roles, but I don't think that my journey really started until I was here and at college, and you're a young adult and you're figuring things out. Um, like PRISM is a big part of that. CAPE is also a big part of that. Um, I love CAPE. I love advocacy work, and CAPE is what made me realize that I want to continue this work after I graduate in May. I Yeah. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, is there a point in your journey that you would consider the beginning of your leadership role?
Oh, sorry. Freshman year. Yeah, freshman year when I was starting the org, I wasn't one of the I was the vice president at first, because I wanted to be a big part of it, but I didn't want to run all of it yet, because
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't ready to. And I think that's another important thing when it comes to leadership. If you're not ready for it, don't put yourself in that position. Um, so knowing like what you can do, that's a important thing. And then I was the vice president my junior year as well. And now as a senior, I'm the president of this organization because I know that I was ready for that and that I could handle um, that position because I had experience in the past with like helping the president set up things and like going to different meetings and all these things. And it's just, um, excuse me, sorry. It's surrounding yourself with like what you do, what does the role ask for, and then being able to do that. Um, yeah.
Amazing. To lead back into that question, I think it's awesome that you recognize where your role is as a leader. Was there a time that you were, now in the present, that thinking back, you wish you would have done something different as a leader?
Ooh, I think when it like figuring out how to recruit people,
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things I've done anyway, is like getting people to come to things because like we are constantly so busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, but as
Oh,
far as like the leadership role, oh, I know there are probably things, but like honestly, I can't think of anything right now. Um, but just like going back to what I said earlier is like as a leader, if you make a mistake, own up to that,
mhm.
and have a meeting about it, voice it, because if you don't, then people will think, oh, this person's like they don't think they can make a mistake or anything. Just address it, because just because you're a leader, like, or in a leadership role, it doesn't make you God.
Yeah.
You're still a person, and just acknowledge that. Because people if they may not like you for whatever reason, but I think they'll at least respect that, like, hey, this person can address that. And I think that's a skill that um people have to hone, and be humble about.
Speaking of acknowledging mistakes, is there a time that you would consider through PRISM or other leadership endeavors as your high point, or in the contrast, your low point of leadership?
um the low point was just getting it started. It took a lot. It took a whole year, because like I said, like we started it my freshman year, but we didn't really get people in until my sophomore year, um once we had the new freshman class coming in and just fresh ideas, and things like that. We had more people that were willing to step up, because as freshmen we're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. But, and I'm not saying this is for all freshmen, I'm just saying like my specific, the brand of people that we the specific people that were part of making this thing happen. I'm the only original member left of that. um like that was the lowest point, and the highest point, I believe, um was, it's now, in the sense that like we still have this community during COVID times.
Yeah.
But yeah, but um junior year, fall semester, like I feel like we had a lot of events going. We did really good at club craze. We had different events that we were able to do, and it was a great time to be alive because
Yeah.
of times. But I think that we're still doing things now, like just like last semester. And it was, yes, it was in October, when Donuts Love, we had the Donuts Love event, because we weren't able to uh because of COVID, but we had all the flags in Castle, and like that, I personally did most of that. I got up at 5 a.m. that day to continue putting those flags in. It was a time, because like sprinklers went off and it was soggy, and like but I loved it, because seeing all of those flags of different, representing different individuals within the LGBTQ plus community, seeing them blow in the wind was like the best thing for me.
Best thing.
um yeah, that was a great achievement, I thought. And I remember there was somebody that came up to me, and I gave them like a flag, because we had a tie-dye event that day.
Mhm.
And I gave them a flag, and to them, like, hey, like, go put this like flag in there and you can go dye a t-shirt. And they were like, there's an asexual flag. And their face just lit up, because like they didn't know that that was a thing, and they had that representation, and like that just fulfilled my heart. um so that was one of the high one of the high points, being a leader.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see the inspiration PRISM and specifically you have done around campus. Speaking to that, do you have someone who inspires you that you consider maybe a personal leader?
Uh, I honestly like I love Rihanna. Like I think I think funny enough, I did a presentation on like why I think she's a god and not she's not a human. Who else can walk on stilettos on those greats? But anyway, like but the what she's done in music and what she's done with the makeup industry and like things like that to make sure there's representation in for everyone. But also like specifically on campus, Heather Lambert and Susanna Rogan. I always say that I strive to be half like Heather Lambert and half like Susanna because I can't attain
Oh, yeah.
like 100% of either of these great women. But I think they are great inspiration on how to be a leader, how to just like take up space in a room and say, hey, this is like what I'm going to talk about, and like demand that respect, but not in a way that's arrogant. And I just think that they're great individuals, and I'm glad that they have been a part of my life here at Doan.
That's yeah, that's awesome that you're able to have figures around campus like that, the way that you are to other figures here on campus. In wrapping up just a little bit, I like to use this platform to give people I'm interviewing a platform. Do you have any current goals that you're trying to reach or PRISM is trying to reach that maybe we could help voice?
Um, as of right now, we okay. So like for PRISM, what we do is we have one goal per month,
Mhm.
and we center everything around that one goal so that we do one thing that's great as opposed to doing a bunch of things terrible. You know.
Yeah,
So our main goal for this month is doing a lot for Trans Visibility Day, but we made it a week event because why not? So just being educating yourself, um, making sure like if someone doesn't feel like talking about their pronouns, realizing that it's not a you thing, it's a them thing,
Mhm.
and maybe they just don't have the energy today. It's not that they're rude, they're just probably tired.
They're
And
human. Yeah,
yeah, exactly, like it's that human aspect. But just realizing that like um there's there's a lot more than we think, like just like how I said, gender's on a spectrum, sexuality is all these things, like it even in like our genetic makeup, like there's evidence for that.
Mhm.
um and to seek it out before like talking to someone and like putting them in the spotlight in that way if they don't feel up to that is what I'd say. Yeah.
You've spit some pretty good advice at me, and I like to finish every single interview with giving the person I'm interviewing the platform to present a life motto or a life saying that they fall by. Do you have a life motto or a life saying that you kind of lead by?
Truly, I don't, but like if I was to say like just some life advice, never be afraid to ask a question. Um, because I mean, you'll get an answer and you'll know you what you needed to know. Never be afraid to ask a question. Always embrace who you are.
Mhm.
Um, and don't worry about what other people's opinions are, because everyone is going to have an opinion about you whether you want them to or not. So it's better to just live and exist how you wish to be as long as you're not hurting anybody else. So
That's amazing. I'm Riley. This is Shiloh. Thank you for tuning in for another Doan Education Leaders. See you next time.